here's the scoop, folks. We are in the presence of greatness, in a place of greatness with people behind the scenes of greatness. So we are here at the bitter end with none other, the one and only, the only one, the Reverend Shawn Amos.
All right, brother.
And this is an episode of The Groove Within. We're going to talk about new music, life, creativity.
Check.
And passion. But before we do that, how you doing?
I'm a little tired. I'm concerned about the world. I'm happy about my personal world and managing it. Taking it breath by breath, my brother.
Yeah. So maybe for those that aren't so familiar with Shawn and your work, you are a man of many things. You are a musician, blues musician, multi-faceted musician. Because blues was only this is the latest incarnation, but there's a career prior.
Yeah.
Media-mogul.
Mogul is a strong word, but okay.
It's probably not even strong enough, to be honest. Author.
Yes.
Accomplished author.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you so far.
Father, all of the things, poet, laureate. So with all of that in mind, you're talking about taking things breath by breath and managing it. Have you always been able to manage it? Are you managing it now in some places and not? And
yeah, I think I'm managing more of it than I ever have. I think I've always managed certain parts of it really well, and other parts I didn't manage so well.
Yeah.
And I paid the price for that. And I think I found this balance where I'm aware of how much I can handle healthily and how much I want to do well, and saying that out loud to everybody.
Yeah.
I think it took a while for me to admit that, where my limitations were, because you want to, there's a point in your life when you want to do everything and you want to say yes to everyone, and you want all the gold shekels you can get. And then there's a moment, I'm at this point in my life where I just want to do, I want to go deeper, right? It's less about going wide and going deep. And so, what are the things where I can really make an impact and really feel good about what I'm putting out there, and focus on that and let the rest of it go. And speak up for myself more, too.
Yeah. Do you bring that into a place like the studio? Like if you're working on a new record, do you sort of try and go deeper on a particular song or collection of songs, or is it more about hitting as many songs as you can?
I mean, if you're gonna bring something to the studio, whatever you bring in, you got to give your all. It's so hard, man. It takes so much energy and so much of your soul and your time and your capital to get to the point to be able to record something, wherever that may be.
Yeah.
And bring people with you who are willing to spend their time with you and invest in you. Everything, it's got to count. Everything's got to count.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
But then to do that and then to be on the phone on the side trying to hustle something else up. Some can do that. I can't do that. It's focus on the shit that's in front of you and give it all of your heart and soul and attention, because it's a hard fight to get to that point.
So talking about being in the studio and rallying people behind you, you've got a new record coming.
Yeah, I got a new record we're finishing, so it's coming. It's finishing, then coming.
Yeah. It needs to be cooked first.
Yeah.
Before you serve.
Yeah, almost there.
Talk to me a little bit about Soul Brother #1. Now, this is a departure from the Reverend Shawn Amos and the Brotherhood.
Yeah, I've done records without the Brotherhood. I've done albums with the Brotherhood, so there's no real, change there. It is what it is. I think, the Brotherhood and I do there's a thing,
Definitely.
And that's a band. It's like Reverend Shawn Amos and, but we operate, as a band. And I'm not, we don't tell each other what to do. And part of the joy of that collaboration is what comes out of us when we do our thing together, and that's the magic of it, right? And so, but if there's things where I feel, I want to hear something specific, or I want to go in a particular direction, and I want to be maybe a bit more prescriptive, then that becomes the Reverend Shawn Amos thing. You know?
Yeah.
It's all exploration. I mean, I love exploring the space that I explore with the Brotherhood. I mean, I've learned so much from those guys, and I've become a better player, and we are truly brothers. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It's a beautiful experience. And I also, love getting in the studio with a bunch of new people and pushing myself. I mean, I think this one's really about writing songs I haven't written before, singing in a way that I haven't necessarily sung before, dealing with subject matter that I have dealt with before, but subject matter in a particular musical setting, like the juxtaposition of the topic, of the juxtaposition of the subject matter and the musical landscape. Was interesting to me to explore. So there's just a lot of things I wanted to sort of get off my chest, and I needed to have some greater flexibility, in how I approached it. Yeah. So, and as the songs were coming out, I mean, they just sort of like weren't. I was writing funk songs. I was writing 70s soul songs, and things that I tell people it's a blues out. It's got like the foundation. Yeah. The foundation of the thing is blues, but this funk and soul built on top of it. Definitely. That hasn't necessarily been part of the scaffolding of the other songs in the past as strongly as it is now. Yeah. I've been lucky to hear a little bit of it, and it's definitely got that American roots sound for sure, as if it was recorded, at the same time Betty Davis was doing her thing. It's it's a good analogy. Betty Davis stuff it's definitely funky and awesome. I mean, I just this has always been the challenge for me with blues, and frankly, all music nowadays. I mean, the albums I grew up loving were albums that were, the word eclectic is used now, but it wasn't even the point. It was just, you had a collection of songs, and you served the song in the way it needed to be served, right? So, I mean, the Beatles are a prime example, right? Or Elvis Costello is a prime example. Paul Simon. I mean, you can go on and on. I mean, these artists, right? Where, you can't, yes, they're all songwriters. I mean, that's like the commonality, but they're not dedicating their entire life to regurgitating a particular sound over and over and over and over and over again. They're giving each song what they think it needs, and there's a musical curiosity that they want to explore, and they want to serve the idea in their head. And those are the albums I've always loved. U2, Joshua Tree, things like that, where it's like, you have artists that were kind of like, as a band even, just like making sounds that were like... Yeah, but that U2 sort of my... Okay, I mean, no dissing on U2, but I mean, that's sort of my point, right? I mean, that's a band that like has a sound. Yeah. And that by and large, every album of theirs has been a sort of, variation of their sound. Got it. I see what you're saying. And that's not really my... You're saying not digging into the place where you're reinventing it every album. So I mean, I just, it's like, there's no one... There's a great Elvis Costello quote that says, there's nothing in his record contract that says he has to make the same album every time. It's like, I don't have a record contract, but there's nothing that says I have to make the same album every time. Yeah. Now, the danger of that is, I think we live in a world where people really expect the same thing over and over again. Yeah. The audiences have come used to that, right? Yeah. And on top of that, blues is a genre that I think has a fair amount of, it's a pretty traditionalist genre. It's somewhat resistant to change. And the blues, just as a musical form, is a limited musical form. Yeah. I love, that's the beauty of it. Yeah. But so I'm always trying to battle sort of my respect for that genre, my practical desire to want to have a career and not want to burn the bridge behind me so my audience can't follow me on one side. And on the other side, balance that with the fact that I want to grow and I want to change, and I have things I want to say, and some things that I want to say can't necessarily be contained within a particular sound or genre or musical space. Sure. And I want to be of interest to myself. And I want to grow. I just want to grow. That's the challenge. Going into the studio, making something that is going to be a bit of a departure. The other thing is like COVID just changed everything, right? I mean, how can we not be changed? How can we not be changed coming out of COVID? For sure. It's like it rewired everything. Yeah. All of our brains and all of our psyches. Our response to things, just the way we like we took a beating, bro. We took a beating. Yeah. So I can imagine coming out 2 years later, man, it's been, 3+ years since I've made an album of new material. So if I show up and I'm in the same the same suit and the same bunch of songs and the same. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
how that
Yeah.
to me that's suspicious.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, where were you the last few years?
Right. Did you catch that there's, Yeah.
So
100%.
I just, and I also think part of it is like it's kind of the natural progression of this journey, because my journey with blues music has largely been about my discovery of my blackness and my relationship with my blackness and my feelings about how I have related to others as a black man when I was younger versus how I relate to others as a black person now.
Yeah.
And so this album's, in some respects, the truest expression and the most honest expression and the freest, most joyful expression of my blackness.
Yeah.
And my feelings about how black people are seen, in this country. So, and that couldn't have happened without all those previous, blues steps. So, and that to me, and that's also the story of the blues.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the blues is a story of the celebration of the resilience and the humanity and the grit and the grace of black people in America.
Definitely.
So, in some respects, maybe it's the bluesiest album I've ever made.
That's cool. Hell yeah. Right on. That's good. Yeah. And it's got an all-star cast of players in it, huh?
I'm lucky, man. Yeah. I mean, every album I've made has just been blessed with like a lot of really great. That's the thing I feel like,
Can we let the record state, Shawn Amos is not lucky. He is a great manifester. He is as good of a manifester as you will ever come across on the planet. So, but I'm sure there's a little bit of luck.
And just will. Right?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Just pushing through.
I admire that.
Pushing through.
You have no idea how much I admire that in you. And look up to you for that, because, I mean, the things that you were managed to do at one time while staying poised, unthinkable. Unthinkable.
Yeah, appreciate that, man.
So you're in the studio. You got this crazy cast of characters. Who you got in there?
There's Steve Ferroni, Tom Petty's drummer, and
John Mayer,
band,
John Mayer, touring band, loads of others.
Beautiful guy, Bristol, England, and there's James Say, who's otherwise known as Wizard, who's the bassist for a legendary Georgia funk rock band called Mother's Finest. He and I met when he was playing with Keb Mo.
Cool.
And they're the rhythm section, which is just monstrous and funky and hard,
dialed in,
just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Dapo Toramiro, who's a Nigerian keyboardist and songwriter, has written with Justin Bieber and John Legend, and that was great because he came in both as a co-songwriter with me, and then also as a player, because a lot of what I was writing ended up being this sort of like funk R&B stuff. It was just frankly out of my musical depth.
Yeah.
And so I had like these germs of ideas, or I'd have like a chorus, but I couldn't figure out the verses, or I had the sort of vague, sketch of a melody, but with that music, the voicings and the inversions are just a whole different world.
Totally.
That's about. And he's just got such a command over his compositional skill, and so he could sort of translate for me.
Yeah.
I'm hearing it like this, and he could just literally sort of voice a bunch of chords, and we could get a song together. So so I co-wrote a few songs with him, and then he plays on the album as well.
Were you in the studio a long time?
It's quick, man. I mean, the basic rhythm, and Dr. Roberts, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Who always is along for the ride.
Shout out to the doc.
We did the basics in 3 days, and then overdubs have just been, catch as catch can. Just sort of stringing them along.
Yeah.
But the basics were 3 days. 9 songs in 3 days, and then I recorded one song with a separate bunch of players, including Brady from the Brotherhood.
Yep. Economics of music and recording. It is impossible these days for a independent artist without funding to get meaningful waves without some kind of help, it seems like.
Yeah, man, you gotta be self-funded or have the good graces of somebody, which I do, or have a whatever label still exists these days that's worth a damn.
Or cunning, or it's funny, the one thing we haven't said is talented.
What did you say?
I said the one thing we haven't said is talented. You don't. It's like it's like
talent,
not even part of the
I think
equation anymore.
Well, no. I think talent's always part of it, man. I mean, if you want to create something that lasts, and if you want to have a second chance, I mean, it's relatively easy to get a first shot at bat. Getting number 2, number 3. I was watching this video with Nils Lofgren the other day.
Who's that?
Springseen's guitarist.
Okay.
He would play with Neil Young. He's like the original version of Crazy Horse.
Okay. Cool.
He's like a 70s era guitarist.
Got it.
And he joined Springsteen's The E Street Band when Stevie Van Zandt left in the 80s.
Okay.
And he's considered one of the sort of the legendary rock guitarists. And he had one hit, and I can't remember what the hell it was now, but he was talking about how right before he joined Springsteen's band, he got dropped by his label. It's like, here's a classic guy. I was like, we love you. You're a good guy. You're talented.
Yeah.
But you don't sell records.
Yeah.
And so that was it.
Yeah. The economics.
He had to realize that part of his life was basically over.
Yeah.
So it's always been the case.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you only get so many shots at bat. And then now with, I think, so many pathways to distribution, funding is sort of like also diversified, right? I mean, it's like, there really was only one funding source originally. It was like his label. That was it. If you can find a label, that was sort of it, because you need the label to fund it, but also to put it out. Yeah. And now you can put it out in any number of ways. Now, how many people see it? Not all distribution channels are created equally.
Yeah, for sure.
But it makes just as the distribution process has been democratized, I guess the funding process has been democratized to some degree as well. And you can make something that sounds pretty damn good on a computer, depending on what kind of genre of music you're playing.
So that leads me to the next question. Why the fuck? Why do it? Why?
I ask myself that all the
you know what I mean? Yeah. And what keeps you coming back? What keeps you in the business, Shawn? For real.
I don't know if I'm in the business versus I'm in the... Well, I'm in the business of creating. Yeah. I'm in the business of creating. And I made a decision a long time ago that I was committed to the exploration and the profound disservice to me to try and squash something that just occurs so naturally in me. I love creating stuff. I just like, and I always have as a kid. A friend of mine texted me the other day, who I've known since kindergarten. Yeah. And we're still friends. Yeah. And he had this letter I wrote him in college. This was like 1987, right? Wow. And it's this funny letter. It's like, that I'm like writing him as somebody. I'm writing him as my assistant. Yeah. And it's this whole like just crazy rambling thing. Yeah. I just wrote to him. I just wrote it and mailed
the ramblings of a madman.
And mailed it to him. And I just like, it's just a reminder. I've always just done shit like that. I've always written things and made up stupid songs and
you left-handed?
Made little videos. I'm right-handed. And it's just who I am. And I did spend a part of my life trying to kill it. Because I knew that it was a hard road, So sort of ignoring the ideas and pretending like they're not there, and something pops in my head, and don't write it down, ignore it, and to sort of take a straight job or whatever the fuck it was.
And that's the time period between the Shawn Amos records and essentially when you came back.
Even earlier.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I think truly kill it was even earlier than that. Yeah. And then I think the time between Shawn Amos records and Reverend Shawn Amos albums was a bit of, maybe a bit of a tug of war, between these sort of sides of me. Yeah. But I just, at some point, the creative person in me won out, and by letting it win out, it means that you gotta take the good with the bad. Either you're in or you're out. And if you're in, then you gotta chase down the ideas to their natural outcome. If you believe in the ideas, yes, and you've gotta listen to the voices, because if you don't listen to them, they'll fucking eat you up. For me, at least. And you've got to be more concerned ultimately with the process than the outcome. And so I have to remind myself of that all the time, that, so why am I doing it? Yeah. Because the process of doing it makes me better, helps me figure shit out, gives my life meaning, allows me to leave something behind for at the very least my children and to understand who I was. At best others.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. And so the challenge becomes, and it's always been my challenge to some degree, while you're doing it, you have to put blinders on and not think about what the outcomes could be.
Right.
Oh my God, is this the album that's going to make it for me? Is this the one everyone's going to discover?
Just live in the moment.
You got to just make the work's all you got.
Yeah.
The work is all you got.
This goes back to you being in the studio and not sideswiping on the phone and being present in
that
scenario.
That's a gift. So the money, right? I'm lucky to be, I fund some of this myself. I'm primarily funded by a wonderful partner I've got who executive produces my albums, Roy McClurg, who's been just a really a believer in me for a lot of years, and to very little financial gain to his own pocketbook. But
it's like you have to be a patron of the arts.
He's basically a patron, for sure. It's a patronage situation in a way. So it's like I've been handed such a gift to get in front of a microphone in a studio.
Yeah.
Like I better fucking well be.
And like, let's throw out some like accolades here. Like Shawn, mainstay on Sirius Radio for years on the Sirius Blues channel. Every major blues festival you were there. All of the magazines, Billboard. You've been on the blues chart. So it's not like. It's not like indie bedroom pop where you're making this thing and that's okay. Well, I'm out here.
Yeah,
it's like,
this is
you're in the game.
We're in the game for sure. Yeah, yeah. So, but it's like how hard do you fight to be in the game? There's the game, there's the work, and there's the game, right? And I think if you believe in the work, then you play the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I believe in the work, and so I play the game.
And that's the why.
There you go. We arrived at the answer.
We arrived at the why. I mean, look, man, this is, I'm really happy you're here and doing this because I think it's a great exploration. You are a very calm dude when we hang and know each other and relax. When you see your Reverend Shawn Amos show, it is not that. That guy is not, and it's you calling out the creator in you and the voice and being attentive to those. There's another dude that comes in the room with the briefcase and starts telling people, it's a different guy, and that, hearing you say that, it comes across, it resonates because I get it. I see that there's a time for work, there's a time for play, and there's a time for letting that out of you.
Yeah, it's all situational, right? I mean, it's the music that does it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I couldn't be that kind of performer singing folk. I mean, I've sung folk songs. I wrote folk songs.
Yeah.
I did the whole folky, sensitive, shoegazing thing for years. I was not that kind of performer when I played that kind of music.
Yeah.
It's literally that music. I mean, the blues does it to me.
Yeah.
It's just,
blues,
and that's why I love performing the blues.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the only conduit, to my heart. And I tell people, I say this all the time, it's the only thing that sort of connects my heart to my head to, God or whatever you believe in.
Yeah.
It's just that music just somehow opens up that channel, man. And I just, I'm not fully, that's why I do it, because I just love to be able to tap into it.
Yeah.
I did a corporate gig last night, and and it happened. It happened there. It doesn't matter where the gig is. It doesn't matter how many people are there. It's completely irrelevant. It's just that, when I get the privilege to play that music and sing that music, it opens it up. That's why I do it, because I love getting that feeling. I love being in that space.
Yeah.
It's writing is a different kind of thing, and singing in the studio is a different kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to just sort of have the chance to channel this stuff is just it's a miracle.
There's new music out, right? So at the time of this recording, we are in Revelation season.
Yeah, this thing first single.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that track. We're in 7/4. Is that what we're dealing with here?
6/4.
Blues in 6/4.
Yeah, it's that's a co-write with Dr. Roberts,
Yeah.
who I also co-write a lot with. So it's his music, so I can't take credit for the riff.
Yeah.
He's in a 6/4 phase right now. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
The chorus is in 4/4.
Yeah.
So the verses are 6/4. It switches to 4/4.
Yeah.
Steve was thrown by it for me. It's like, what is this?
Steve Ferroni.
But it's a heavy groove, and it's the heaviest thing I've done for sure.
The record as a whole is louder. It's a
loud
record.
album. It's just it's again that pride thing, right? I think there's something about what I've done. There's been a hint of everything I've done musically, which was obviously like modesty, or it's humility, or it's insecurity.
Yeah.
or it is just sort of not feeling I have the right to just like step right in the fucking center of the bullseye, you know? And with this one, I'm like, fuck it, man. I'm gonna step right in the center of the goddamn bullseye.
Yeah.
Like I have nothing to apologize for, you know? And so, and the cover art's like that, which won't give away quite yet, but
Yeah.
there's a photo shoot I did, and it's just sort of like, it's like, like arms
What
wide
an
open,
analogy.
chest
Yeah,
wide open,
yeah.
like,
Wait till you see it, folks.
Nothing to apologize
He's so
for.
good looking. It's crazy. It's like, it's unreal. It's so funny that you use the analogy of stepping into the bullseye, because the first thing that came to my mind was like that standard wedding situation where it's the big circle and no one ever was afraid to jump in.
Yeah,
but the person that does, what happes? Everybody claps for them.
Yeah, totally.
Everybody claps for that person.
Yeah.
And we should be more willing as a people to feel that it is ours to step into.
Well, I think we're so self-conscious. We're so self-conscious more than ever, and social media, is just really reinforced that tendency.
They did a number.
We're so joyless.
Yeah.
For lots of good reasons, frankly. It's a hard time, and we're so disconnected from our hearts and our humanity.
Yeah.
And I've always talked about that. I mean, it's been, the joy and, that I talk about Joyful Blues, but I just feel like, at this moment in time, I owe it to myself and whoever may be interested in what I do to be completely unselfconscious and to just put it all out there. To not hold anything back. And it's like, this is, who I am. And to be as bold. What's that Maya Angelou quote? It's like, I forget.
Fate favors the bold.
No, it's like you owe it to yourself to shine bright. It's like you're not doing anyone, you're doing everyone a disservice if you're not shining as bright as you can shine. I mean, the world needs us all.
Right. No one feels that
to
light.
shine bright. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just shine as bright as I fucking can. Man.
Yeah.
And so Revelation is sort of the first shot, off the bow for that. And lyrically, it's kind of dark. But
where did that happen? Did that happen with pen in hand or phone and dots?
It's a mixture of both.
Yeah.
So I wrote all the lyrics. I mean, I always maintain complete ownership over. I mean, I think above all else, I'm a writer. Yeah. I'm a lyricist and I'm a writer.
Poet, for sure.
So, I'm perfectly happy to share compositional space.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of a hog with.
You've got something to say.
Lyrical space. Yeah. That's my own. So, but yeah, it's fragments of ideas that I capture wherever I can capture them. I got notebooks. I've got, iPhone recordings, scraps of paper. I mean, wherever I can get it, I get it, and then at some point it coalesces into a document. I write on my computer. I don't write longhand. I like to write longhand more again, but I write on the computer.
Yeah.
And so at some point it's sort of, and I love with the Doctor, it's great because it's sort of like this Bernie Taupin, Elton John relationship. He sends me like finished music. It's like, here's a song without words. Yeah. And it's great. And I can just sort of live with it and see what sounds come out of me. And every now and then I may, hey, can you like shorten this verse up by a couple bars? Because the phrase I need. So make a few suggestions like that. Yeah. But that's largely his domain, and I got mine, and things just come. Revelation is that word is a heavy word.
It is a heavy word.
It's got this dark, almost like QAnon aspect to it, of like this apocalypse end times, kind of thing.
The end is nigh.
And it's also got this, man, we should all be so lucky to have like a revelation of get some clarity. And so there's a duality to that word that I really like. Yeah. And so revelation and revelations. The
singular revelation. Yeah. The bigger one.
Yeah. And so so it starts. It's sort of an exploration of that, but it's. I'm not really sure what it is beyond that.
Yeah. Well, you have to listen for yourself. It's available everywhere now. Shawn, I've enjoyed talking. There's one more thing I want to bring up. Actually, two. Since we're on the topic of the record, I'm going to start here and then move to the next. If I were to listen to Soul Brother #1, what are 3 other albums that I should be familiar with?
Oh, that's great. So Lee Field and the Expressions would be one. Anything by them. Curtis Mayfield's Curtis album. And Sly Stone, There's a Riot Going On.
Hell yeah. Cool. All right, that's your homework, everyone. Listen to that along with Soul Brother number 1. Date to be announced on the
next
record.
year for sure.
Yeah,
February probably.
Yeah. I'd love to maybe do let's jam for a second. Is that cool with you? Yeah, cool. All right, let's take a little break.